to The Next Step, a cardboard reality podcast about games above and below the game of the day. Except for today. In a special episode, we will be looking at games above today's theme of the day, casino games. Enjoy the show. All right, guys. Dylan here.
Nick here.
And we're back with an episode of The Next Step.
That is the name of your show.
That is the name of my show. And we've already diverged from what we've planned on. Usually it's a step above and below, and this time we're just doing games above.
Yeah, well,
kind of?
Kind of for me.
Okay, well, we're kind of spitballing it here. If you don't know anything about the show, we've already covered Scythe. You know, we had to get the clickbait games because everyone loves to talk about Scythe to get those views.
How'd that work for you?
I don't know. I haven't seen my numbers. I don't check those things. But today we're actually going to be covering casino games.
Yeah.
And here's an upfronter for you. I've never been to the casino.
I have. I went to Vegas last year.
And there's a reason for that, because if you know anything about me, if you've listened to any of our episodes, you know I have a very addictive personality, and gambling is not something to toil with me.
You would be like a kid in a candy store. You would see like all of the blinking lights and craziness, and you would just be like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
Gamble like I'm going to do blackjack and poker and slots.
Which
don't do slots.
No, slots.
It's a good way to lose money.
Slots are so lame too, because like. That's what my family does. I'm like, that doesn't seem any fun. If I wanted to play slots, I could just like go home and mash buttons in a video game.
Yeah. Well, I'll say that when I went to Vegas, that was like the one place I really had no desire to like ever visit. Gambling just doesn't appeal to me. But I went, and believe it or not, I actually enjoyed myself. It's not a place I would want to go to most of the time.
And had you played cards before? Like that style of like table cards?
Once or twice, but never for money, really.
Right.
Gambling has never appealed to me.
Right. Same.
So I played a lot of blackjack when I went there, and I won a bunch, then lost a bunch, and then won some back.
Okay.
But overall, like, that was enjoyable. Didn't play any poker. I did like a couple other just like weird gambling games that they have set up. And then I watched my coworker, because we were on a business trip, do some poker, I think, or like the horse racing stuff. So it's just a completely different world.
Really?
In Vegas. It is bizarre. Have you ever been to like Disney World?
Yeah.
And when you go to Disney World, you feel like you're in like a whole new like universe unto itself.
I had a guy tell me when you go to Disney World, you're supposed to take the two digits in your age and combine them together, and that's how you feel.
That's funny.
And I was like, yeah, that's actually kind of how I felt. I was like, I would have been 7 because I went when I was 16.
But you feel like you've been transported to like a different world.
Yeah.
Like whatever.
Lighthearted. Everyone's a kid.
Yeah. So that's what it feels like in Vegas. But instead of feeling like a kid, you feel like an addictive like druggie that needs to make some money. And you're just... it's always daytime. There's no clocks. Like, you get just stuck in these like labyrinths of casino games.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like late at night, and they're handing out free drinks, because anywhere you go and sit down, they just hand out free drinks.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because they're getting their money from you losing it.
Right.
Like an idiot.
Yeah. And I live close. My family live close to the French Lick Casino, Southern Indiana.
Yeah.
And that's where they would gamble. And my grandparents, like, I remember when I turned 21, because you had to be 21 to get in casinos here. And my grandparents were like, "Do you want to go?" I was like, "No, I don't want to go," because I know that I would lose money and want to lose money quick. I want to keep playing.
Because like the next one I'm going to win.
The next one I'm going to win, or I'm just having so much fun that I want to keep spending money. Sure. I mean, like, there's like an addiction to it.
It absolutely is, and it's really fun. I was actually surprised at like how addictive I felt, and I'm like, yeah, I don't need to like really go to these places.
Right.
After that, that same coworker, he convinced me. He does like this milk and cookies tournament every year, so it's like poker tournament. Mm-hmm. And this is the first time I've really ever played poker.
Traditional
Texas Hold'em, yeah.
Texas Hold'em, yeah.
And it was a 2-table, 3-table tournament, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up winning the whole Steakin' thing. And one of the people that was there, actually 2 of them have been to Vegas to play like professionally,
right,
in poker tournaments.
I have a back when I was working in the financial business, I had a few, or one particular who actually, like, that was like his side hustle, was like professional poker.
Yeah.
Outside of being a government employee. Take that as you will. So before we get into like our thoughts on it, why do you think casino games are so like gravitating towards people, like towards the people who play them?
Like, why do the people that play them all the time, or like enjoy them?
Yeah.
It's just like an addictive thing.
Right.
I think there's a lot of like, in poker you have like the bluff that is addictive. Mm-hmm. Just the chance to make money.
Right.
And I think honestly, what really gets them, they win a little bit and they see like, oh, I just made money. That was so easy. And then they lose a bunch and they're like, oh, you need to get that high again.
I've on top of the money aspect, I think there's an emotional aspect with the thrill, the excitement, the edge of your seat feeling, and I think those are what keeps people into those games.
Yeah.
On top of the fact that they're even more at the edge, even more like shaking because their own money's on the line. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the combination of those two things, and the fact that it's in the hands of fate. Like, it's luck for a lot of these. Like,
yeah, it's risky and it feels dangerous. Like, it's thrilling. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
So that's really why I wanted to look at these, because like we have a different perspective on these games. You know, we look at these games like for their, like, me personally, I look at poker and some of these other like big name gambling games for their mechanics, and I just inherently know they're not good mechanically games. Like, if I were to look at poker for what it is, like mechanics based on board game principles that we as like podcasters and hobbyists know aren't good mechanics.
Yeah, it depends on like how you define good. I know a lot of people see that luck is a bad thing.
Right.
But some of the games that I enjoy the most, as long as you understand that they're luck driven and you're good with that.
Right.
Then I don't think it's a bad mechanic. It's just something you don't want in a 3-hour like strategic game.
Yeah, and I think that there's things like poker, there may be times where you don't play for a long period of time just because your hands are bad.
And poker's deep too. Like, you can really actually study that game, and
right.
You can improve your play even though there's a lot of luck and stuff. It's about learning how to like read people and the table,
right.
And understanding what the deck is comprised of and the chance that this could happen.
Mm-hmm. I think the 3 main ones that I'm going to personally cover today, like steps up for, are poker, blackjack, and craps.
Yeah, I followed that mold too.
Yeah, I think those are the easiest ones to do. I had some ones I hadn't necessarily played particularly. I recently bought a game that would cover horse racing, and then also there are some that I actually thought about for slots that I may exclusively have for the guild. So if you're in the guild, you may get you will want to follow that up on our BGG guild, get some exclusive content as to what I think would be next steps for slots.
I wonder what that would be. Board gaming.
Yeah, it's a lot of that's for the guild. Yeah. They'll get them. You think on them.
Probably like some sort of like matching like set collection thing. I don't know.
Well, you think on it. You guys check the guild once this drops. And so we can kind of look at, one thing I did want to plug. I wanted to plug Adam Porter's Top 10 Push Your Luck mechanics. That was a great video that I saw that kind of helped push this in my mind a little bit further.
If Joel's listening, he can put this in the show notes.
Yeah, which would be great, because Adam Porter is a board game designer. He designed Pokoko, which is a game that I should have a review out here pretty soon. It's done, and we've got pictures for it and everything. We just have to get it published, and Nick has to edit it, or someone has to edit it.
It's on me.
It's on Nick. Yeah, well, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
But he does great breakdowns of push your luck, like these push your luck games, and how the subgenres of the push your luck mechanics. Because you take a like worker placement, worker placement then has subgenres of how you do worker placement, like either using cards or like bumping worker placement. He does the same thing with Push Your Luck, which helped me think about these 3 gambling games in a different manner. So check that out if you guys want. It's a really good video. Analyzes games in a different way, particularly from a designer standpoint. So I just wanted to plug that.
Cool.
First game we'll cover. You're the guest here. Give me a plug, or give me a game you want to talk about.
Well, do you want to talk about blackjack or poker or which one?
That's what I'm saying. It's
Okay.
on you. You're the guest.
Let's do blackjack.
Blackjack. Yep. Blackjack I kind of looked at as mainly a push your luck game. It's one where you're really just trying to hit a number.
That's exactly what I did.
So you're going to look at it like, oh, yeah, you're trying to get to 21, and the tiebreaker mechanism is beating the dealer.
Yeah, like pushing your luck, but trying not to bust.
Yeah, it's a tough one because, like, it's very much just like, I mean, most push your luck games really don't have a ton of, like, depth on them.
Yeah.
It's how do I beat the guy across the table from me, and how do I keep myself safe? Mm-hmm. The first one I kind of saw is an obvious one. I picked Can't Stop.
Okay.
No. I'm sorry. That's craps.
I have Can't Stop for blackjack.
Oh, okay. Well, what do you know?
But I almost put it for craps just because you're rolling dice.
Rolling dice, yeah.
But it's push your luck, which, yeah, it felt which I guess you're probably doing that in craps too.
Yeah, because craps is kind of a, like, you're required to roll the dice.
Yep.
But, yeah, I can see Can't Stop. Why do you think it's just because it fits the blackjack mold because it's just a push your luck game?
It's push your luck, try not to bust. Like, so on your turn, you're rolling dice and you're trying to move up your pegs as much as you can and pass before you bust. Mm-hmm. So there's always, like, obviously the more and more you roll your dice, the greater and greater chance there is that you start running out of dice and you'll eventually bust.
Right.
So that to me feels very blackjackish. If you like that just very core concept of blackjack, that's all that you'll find here in Can't Stop. But instead of drawing cards, you're rolling dice.
Mm-hmm. I went with and
it's longer, so it's
got a little bit more meat on it. Not in terms of complexity, but in terms of, like, being.
It feels like a fuller game just because you go back and forth with your opponents. You're seeing their progress, and it makes you want to push luck even more.
Yeah, because you're worried. It's almost a race because, like, once you reach the top of a certain number, then their little marker goes on that, and that number is off limits for everyone else to get.
Right.
So you're, like, in a race to try and reach the top of that number,
and you're trying to get the most.
It's
at the top, right?
First one to
3.
First one to 3.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think it's a great one. I'll talk about it a little bit more for craps probably. I've been wavering on one, so I actually am not going to recommend it. The one I'm going to recommend for blackjack is Quacks of Quedlinburg.
Okay.
This is pure push your luck with a little bit of, like, bag building. So you're drawing tokens out of a bag, and it's really like one of those where you bust, like. That's what you're kind of, like, trying to, like, focus on in. Like, me personally, when I'm thinking about, like, next step from blackjack, it's push your luck games with busting.
Yep.
And so, like, in Quacks of Quedlinburg, you're trying to draw these chits until you get, like, a certain number of white chits. And they have various numbers, but once you reach, I think it's once you exceed 7 of the, like, printed numbers on these chits, then your cauldron overfloods and you've made a bad potion. Mm-hmm. And the reason why that's bad, you still get a benefit. If you don't bust and you stop, you get the benefit of victory points and money to buy better chits to go into your bag, like ingredients. But if you bust, you only get one or the other. So, like, it's not a bad, like, it's not one of those where you bust and get nothing.
Right.
Can't Stop has that. And as a matter of fact, blackjack has that. If you bust, you're out and you get no money. But if in Quacks of Quedlinburg, it gives you the opportunity to still push your luck and possibly bust, without having the bad thing happen.
The huge ramifications.
Huge ramifications.
Yeah.
It's also one of those that's longer. It's got a little bit more time meat.
And there's more game to it.
There's more game to it. So it's definitely like a next step for blackjack.
So like Euro lovers that also enjoy blackjack, look at this game.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's all like you're looking at victory points like as like a long-term goal. It's got some catch-up mechanisms.
Mm-hmm.
It's got great variability because like it's got these books for each of the like that tell the power for each of the colored chits.
Yep.
And they're double-sided, so you have 2 for each colored chit, and then there's another one that is double-sided as well. So there's 4 possibilities for each of the colored chits.
Okay.
So lots of variability. It's just a fun one. So I think that's a good next step from blackjack.
Yeah, it sounds. I've not played it, but it sounds like actually a good recommendation. I wouldn't even have considered it as something that would have worked, but it sounds like it does.
Yeah, it's weird. Because bag building itself is just a weird concept. It's like deck building, except you can get any of the cards instead of having to worry about shuffling.
Yeah,
it's weird.
So do you have any more for blackjack? Because I have a few.
I have another one, but I don't think I'm going to recommend it. It was the Skull King.
Oh, okay.
The trick-taking game.
Yeah.
The reason why is because you're kind of pushing your luck when it's a trick-taking game, except it's played in phases, kind of like the traditional card game Phase 10.
Mm-hmm.
So you play 10 phases or 10 rounds, and whenever you play that first round, you only have 1 card. And you have to simultaneously bid how many tricks you think you'll get. So you go row, ho, or yo, ho, ho, and then you put out how many, like on your fingers, how many tricks you think you'll take.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of like you're reading like the card you have and like kind of getting an idea of like.
But there's no like really busting. It doesn't sound like.
There is, because if you don't get that, then you lose points. So that's where like the busting is, because you're trying to think, how many am I exactly going to get?
But you have to guess exactly, like
yes,
not underguess it.
Not underguess it. So it's like a weird. It's a weird one. That's why I was kind of on the fence. I wanted to talk about it at least because like it was really fun.
Yeah.
Because trying to guess like how many tricks out of 10 I'm going to take, and you're like row or yo ho ho, and you put out 7. Everyone's like, what the hell's this guy doing? I've got like 4 trumps, so that's 4 tricks that I'm gonna get. So it's a good one. I don't know if I would consider it push your luck or replacement to blackjack. I had it down, but maybe just take a look at it, see if it fits the bill for you blackjack players who are looking for the next step.
Cool. So like I said, I have 3. I'll go through them kind of quickly. So
take your time. We got nowhere to be.
One of them is one I actually just played, and I already talked to you about it on Slack. Is Push. I just played this past weekend. I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah, I know. I had no idea until I had one of the worst board gaming experiences of my life with it.
Because somebody taught you the wrong rules, so you were playing the game incorrect the entire time.
Yeah, he basically taught us Uno with die rolling.
Yeah,
and it was the worst thing ever.
Not what this
game
is.
And he yelled at me.
So this is actually one I enjoyed well enough for what it was that I kind of want to have a copy of myself, just because I think it would be fun to play with family and
Talk
stuff.
about the game. I know I looked at the rules, and it's like 2 pages, so it's not real rules heavy.
Yeah, so on your turn, you take the deck of cards that you're drawing from in the center, and you draw a card, and you play it down into one of 3 columns. When you start, there's like no cards in any of the columns.
Okay.
So you play a card down. It's going to be like, I think maybe 5 or 6 different colors. It could be red, yellow, green, purple, or blue. I think that sounds right.
Yeah, that sounds right. I think based on the
so like 5 colors. And it's numbered 1 through 6. 1 through 6.
Okay.
So you cannot have in one column 2 1s or 2 2s, and you also can't have 2 yellow cards. If you end up having to place a card down that would break that rule, you bust.
Oh, nice.
So you keep drawing cards, and you're playing it down into one column. And then let's say I draw like a 5. I put it in the first column, and that's like a 5 purple. Then I draw like a 3 of green. I might decide to put that down in the same column. Then I draw a 1 of red, and I haven't seen a red out yet, so I could put it in that column, or I could just start a second column because a 1 value is like not that great, so maybe I could like hope to get a red 4.
And so you're all drawing from the same deck, but are you taking like one, you take a turn,
no,
then everyone else?
So I just keep drawing.
Okay.
So it's like it's a push your luck. You just keep drawing until you decide to pass or you bust. So let's say I end up drawing. There's also these die roll cards that you'll have to put out, and you can't have more than one of those in a column either. These are bad. You don't want to roll the die. So you end up finishing. You may have cards in all 3 columns, or you may only have cards in 1 or 2 columns by the time you pass. So say I pass, then I choose whatever column I want, and I get those cards. So I want the column that has the most points in it, and you add just face value. So 6 is better than 5, right?
Right.
So I would take that stack and sort them into my personal supply. And then everyone else has to pick the other stacks in turn order or what they want. There are also cards that come out that reverse turn order for picking cards. So if that card came out, then in counterclockwise, they would get to pick that stack.
Okay.
And if anyone has a stack that has a die roll card in it, you have to roll the dice. If that die lands on blue, I have to lose all of the blue cards I captured earlier in the game.
Oh, that's crazy.
So as a thing you can do on your turn, instead of pushing your luck, you can save a stack. So I could say, I'm going to save all my blues. So I can no longer lose those blues I just saved. Any new blues coming out would then still be like potential risks.
Yeah, potential risks. Yeah.
And then at the end of the game, whoever has the most points wins. It's so fun.
Oh,
I
wow.
played it once, and I was like, all right, we got to play that again. So we played it like 2 times in a row.
That's cool.
Yeah, I really like it.
Yeah, for what it is, it comes in a
simple.
small box too, if I remember correctly.
It's just placing cards out, try not to bust. It felt very much like blackjack. There's just the extra layer of you have like the die rolls and like saving cards, and it goes on longer.
Right.
Yeah.
I like the sound of that. Yeah, cool.
It's really fun. So another one, Deep Sea Adventure. We've talked about it before.
Yep, I will be speaking about that later too.
So this one I think is a good like push your luck with busting, but busting is not quite as like clean cut as it is in some other games. So if you bust in this one,
you die.
Yeah, you die. And you lose all your treasure like you would expect. So you're basically sharing an oxygen supply with a bunch of other chumps who also want treasure.
Of course.
And you're all trying to get the most valuable treasure and make it back to the sub before the oxygen supply gets depleted.
Get those greedy hands on good treasure.
The more treasure you get, the more you're weighed down, the more you start depleting everyone's shared oxygen supply.
Right.
You do 3 rounds of that. Whoever has the most points wins. This one is just an absolute blast. I think this is like, if you're wanting a small box game that is sure to please most anyone, plays in like 20 minutes, I think Deep Sea Adventure is one to not overlook. It's so good. I think 3 of us in our game group owns this game.
Who's the third?
Nathan.
Who's the other?
Oh, you don't own it.
No, I don't own it.
So Nathan and I own it. Maybe somebody else does. I don't remember.
I don't know.
But it's just a delight.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
And then my next one is actually definitely a next step up from Blackjack. That's Tulip Bubble. This game is investing in the tulip mania. So you're investing in tulips before the bubble inevitably bursts and you lose all your money.
Right.
So you're trying to invest in and sell all of your tulips to make a big buck before the bubble bursts. Thing is, you don't know when the bubble's going to quite burst.
Right.
You know, it could be the last 3 rounds, but you don't know which round. So it's that weird tension of pushing your luck, trying to profit versus hoping the bubble doesn't actually burst. I just adore this game.
Mm-hmm. I know you do, which is a little strange, but it's also the amount of time commitment for the game. It's like a 45-minute game.
I think it's the perfect time commitment for the right amount of thinkiness. And honestly, like, I know people might think like, oh, Nick doesn't like a lot of luck in his games. He plays a bunch of these high like strategic or tactical games. If the game is short enough and it's push your luck, I tend to really like push your luck. I don't know. I really enjoy the idea of trying to make the most out of whatever you got without busting.
Right.
Is very appealing to me.
Yeah, I Tulip Bubble's a good one.
Yep.
So that was a lot of the games that we thought were the next step from Blackjack. From Blackjack.
Yep.
And maybe some crossover with some of the other games that I have. So we'll go on to let's get on to Craps, because Craps is the one where I have both games crossover.
All right.
It's Can't Stop and Deep Sea Adventure.
Oh, really?
Yeah, literally both of those.
All right.
And mainly because they're push your luck with die.
Okay.
So it kind of takes you away from the cards.
I'm surprised you didn't say the other one I'm going to say, but
we'll see. But I know which one it is. That's a beauty. But I think that Deep Sea Adventure, I'll focus on that one for a second. It's kind of an easy one to get people to play because it's roll and move, which is nice because everyone's played a roll and move game in their life.
This is one of the only games that have gone over well with my family.
Right. So, I mean, like, that's a good sign. It's low table space.
Mm-hmm.
It's got great components. I love the little submarine.
And how you can like make the path to the bottom of the ocean however way you want.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. I just like it.
Yeah, it's got a good appeal. And I think that it's one that you can really it's shorter than like Can't Stop. So you don't have to like super think about the commitment. You can be like, I'm going to risk it every time.
Yep.
And then die probably every time.
Well, and then you die the first 2 rounds and other people have brought back treasure. So you have to risk everything the last round. You're like, well, I've gotten this far. I'm not going to win by playing it safe. Now I have to really risk it.
Right. So, I mean, like, it's kind of like one of those where you really...
I'm all in, baby.
You're all in. And then there's Can't Stop, which is a Scott favorite. Scott loves this game for some odd reason.
I like Can't Stop, but I've only been able to play it once. You don't bring it around very much.
Yeah, I know. I've got too many other games. And remember, my goal is to...
play all of your games before the end of the year.
Yeah, which is going to be tough, but...
Mine was play 50 games of Go and Crokinole with Amanda before the end of the year, and that's not going too well either.
No, I'm guessing not.
I've gotten way more than 50 plays of Crokinole in this year, though, so
which
just
is
not
good.
with Amanda.
Yeah, unfortunate.
At work.
Yeah. So yeah, Can't Stop is great. It's just fun, and you can play it however you want. You can literally win this game on your first time in one big turn, which is funny because that's what Tom Vassell does. He just goes until he busts. Yep. He never stops. Or you can play like Scott, big old ninny, who rolls the dice 3 times and then calls it a day. Literally every time he rolls the dice 3 times.
Works out really well for him when everybody else is busting, though.
Yeah, and he wins almost every time he plays, which is maybe a sign that that's how we should play.
You should kind of play it safe.
So talk about the other craps step.
So, yeah, craps, I'm thinking like, okay, probably push your luck a little bit, but the main thing I'm focusing on is rolling dice.
What this is definitely a step down from craps.
Is that the only reason you didn't put it on here?
Maybe. Because it's literally just like...
I mean, it's honestly just as complicated as Can't Stop. No, I'm not saying it's a step up. I think there's more going on in craps.
Yeah, most definitely.
So, but yeah, this is Strike. Thanks to Herb.
Also called Impact. The new version is called Impact. I almost bought it.
Oh, is it out?
Yeah, it's out.
Okay.
So it's the same game. It has a elements theme.
I adore this game. This is the perfect like game to wrap up a game night with, or if you're not even really having a game night, you just have some friends over. Like, I just bought a grill. I want to have friends over. I want to grill food. I want to drink beer, and hang out. And I think Strike is the perfect game. Like that, you pull that out, you pull Crokinole out, you just have like these like party-esque. They're not really board games.
I just had an epiphany.
What?
A giant version of
Strike.
Oh man, with the big like foam dice.
Yeah.
And like you have
to crawl down in the arena to recover your dice.
Oh, maybe not that big. Or you have like a big fishing net.
Yeah. So Strike, have we talked about it recently? We did on our on Reality
Con one, but it deserves more coverage.
So it's just like this arena that you're throwing dice into, and you're basically trying to not lose your dice. And so you want to roll pairs or like doubles or triples.
You want to roll.
Whatever.
You want the die
the same face
to be the same face.
Yeah. So the more 5s you roll, the better, right? Like if you roll all 5s, great for you. You pull up all the dice that match that face value,
right?
As long as there's a match.
If it's an X, that die basically dies. That die dies.
That die dies,
and you pull it out, and it goes into a pile.
And if you roll all different faces, you don't get to retrieve any dice. Mm-hmm. And then you, at that point, have the opportunity to roll again until you get matches or not. Once you get matches, you're done and you pass the bowl on.
This adds one layer that Craps does not have. And this is actually a dexterity game as well. Because you're trying you're not rolling it like all the dice are over here and you roll over in this like blank section. You're trying to like throw at that pile to get them to tumble around as well. Because why would you try and like lower your odds when you're encouraged to make contact with these and flip them over to where you have multiple like dice of the same face.
And if you really wanted to get into it, you could definitely gamble with this, and you could also, like you do in craps, you could bet on like a player.
Right.
Like, I think Joel's gonna win.
Herb does an interesting gambling variant, which is quite unique, where everyone has a buy-in and you keep rolling until you're out, and then you have to pay another $1 to buy back in.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're like, until it comes down to 2 people.
Yep.
And so like people are buying in and the pot keeps growing bigger until someone's like, I'm thinking if I want to buy in, or I've spent too much money, and then it just ends up being 2 people and they fight for the rest of the money.
Yep.
That's a fun way to do it. I would love to do that.
This game's a hoot.
It's a hoot. It is a good one.
I could definitely bring this around my in-laws. They love like stupid push your luck dice games.
Yeah. So look for Strike. I don't know if it's still in print because Impact is now available. It's a little bit smaller box. Like it's not near as long. It's it's wider.
Mm-hmm.
Or taller, or however you want to say it. And the die are not 1 through 5. They're symbols.
Oh, okay.
So they're like fire, wind, water. So like it becomes it's almost like airbending at this, or like Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Trying to add some theme on it.
Yeah, something, because it's literally like you either see it as a themeless dice rolling game or gladiatorial combat because it looks like a arena.
Yep.
So that's quite a good one. That's a dandy. So now we've got poker. This is maybe the biggest one of the gambling games, probably the one that most people like associate with casinos
because it's the most gamey one.
Yeah,
like you can be there's like there's not professional blackjack players. I don't think there is professional poker players.
Yeah,
like you can actually get really good at this game.
You can, and a lot of it's like reading probabilities. A lot of it, which one of the games I'll cover, is reading your opponents, reading their bluffs, reading the table.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to hit us with the first one you think is a good poker like next step?
Yeah, so I took this 2 different ways. I took it as you either want a bluffing game with like making poker hands and stuff,
mm-hmm.
or you want to lie and deceive people.
Yeah, which is definitely like the 2 forms of doing this. And I think we've probably got the
and
most...
like table reading people.
Yeah, probably the most next steps for this one.
Yeah, I have 2. So I have...
like 5.
Well, I have one that it could be a lot of things, and then I just suggest a game. But so my first one is Shot and Totten.
Yeah, that's one of mine in my 5.
Yeah,
for sure. Or Battle Line.
Yeah, Battle Line, Shot and Totten, same game.
Literally the same game.
Strictly a 2-player game, and you're making poker hands, and there's a lot of bluffing to it. Mm-hmm. You're trying to compete for these cards in the middle of the table that are going to score you points. And Shot and Totten, they're like stones or something.
Yeah.
So you're playing down all these different cards, and whoever has the best poker hand in front of a certain stone is going to get that stone. Mm-hmm. And once you get so many stones, you win the game.
Right.
But it's fun because you play a card out, like you play 1 or 2 cards out on your turn.
You play one
at
draw
a time.
Draw one,
play one.
Yep.
And then your opponent does the same back and forth. So you can play in different areas for different rocks, and you always kind of have to be looking at your opponent like, do they have the hand of cards to win that rock, or are they bluffing me?
The winner is first to get, I think, 3 of those stones in a row, or first to get like 4 or 5 of any of them.
Yeah, this is a great just head-to-head bluffing game. And another one very similar to this idea is Hanami Koji.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also
really great. So if you're looking for any sort of like bluffing game like this, just light card game, I would look at those 2.
There are a lot of those. Like I almost put them in the Lost Cities family.
Mm-hmm.
Lost Cities, another Reiner Knizia design.
There's also Matcha. It's kind of similar. My wife likes that one a lot.
Okay, yeah. I do like Shot and Totten is very interesting because it's like a 2-player version of poker. Maybe I think, like I said earlier, poker's maybe biggest downfall is if you have bad cards dealt to you, you're not interacting. So there's like a possibility of like not interacting with the other players. Mm-hmm. And it has player elimination. So like that's also inherently like for a longer game, because poker can run long, to have player elimination is like not a great thing for long games.
Mm-hmm.
In a mechanics driven game. Like if I'm to look at it on paper,
yeah,
that's what I would say about poker.
Yep.
Shot and Totten's a really good one. One I'll recommend. I want to look at a different approach for Tulip Bubble. This is one I said for poker, because a lot of it is like reading probabilities of these cards that are coming up,
mm-hmm.
Reading values of this card versus this card, because your opponent's also going to be jockeying for these values as well. It has the auction, so you like that's kind of like the bidding aspect of poker.
There's a little bit of bluffing on there where I'm going to bid on this because I know like Dylan really needs this tulip, but he doesn't know that I don't really want it. So I can bid him up with the full intention that I don't want this.
Right.
But you don't really know that.
It kind of has the because in particularly Texas Hold'em, you have the flop, you have the draw, the flop, and the river.
Yeah.
Like the cards that you're playing out. And so those are like, in a way, kind of like how the tulips come about as well. Same with like when the bubble bursts. That's like getting a bad like timing for like the river. Like that's like something that you may get a feel for from poker as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think it's a good one. It kind of adds that next step next step from a lot of these other games we're suggesting, because it actually has money involved.
I really hope they reprint Tulip Bubble. As far as like sub 1 hour games, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's a cool one. One that's grown on me. But yeah, I think it's really good.
Grown on you after only playing it once.
Yeah, because
you played it twice now.
I've played it twice.
Yeah.
I think it's grown on reflection.
Yeah.
Because I was playing it in a time when I didn't know that I really enjoyed economic games, and now I do know that I enjoy economic games. So now I know, like in the scope of things, that it's really good.
Mm-hmm. I think it's easily the best Modius game. That's what they're called.
Yeah, the
people who do mini rails. I haven't played Symphony Number 9. Mini rails is fun, but I just think Tulip Bubble feels like a fuller experience.
It's a more fuller. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Symphony Number 9. Off my like one play, it's a little too abstract for me. It's got a theme pasted on, but like it could literally be anything.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Cool.
Hit me with another poker next step.
All right, so I already talked about Shot and Totten. The other way I'm going with this is you just want to lie and deceive people and try to read people at the table. So what better than social deduction, right?
Yeah.
So my favorite social deduction game, and I haven't played a ton, mind you, so this is probably why this one's my favorite, but I played like The Resistance. I played One Night Ultimate Werewolf, Werewords, I guess, if you count that.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird one.
Yeah, it's like a less lying and deceiving one, but
yeah,
it is one.
More focused on the 20 questions. Same with Insider.
But like, if you just want all out lying and deceit, then I would say Secret Hitler.
Yeah.
It's just pure what it is. And it's always a good time. You play with the right group of people that want to play that at like, the 8 to 10 player count. It's just a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's definitely one where you're reading the table, reading people's bluffs and lies. And like, I definitely agree that Secret Hitler is like, and you've had success with introducing it.
Actually, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So when I won the poker tournament, after that we played board games, and Secret Hitler came out. And
your copy?
Yeah, no, I don't. I have a print and play copy. It was Nathan's
same.
copy.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, we played Secret Hitler. I taught him how to play that, and then they played it like 5 times in a row, and this was like a poker crowd. So that kind of goes to show that like this type of game appeals to like people that really enjoy poker.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I think that's a very inline one with poker, and you've had experience, so you know firsthand.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot more chaotic, but it's fun.
I think one that I didn't initially write down, but similar to my last suggestion, I think also, I can't even think of the name. Modern Art is similar. You're a little bit of hand management. You're kind of looking at the cards you have and the cards that are out on the table, and you're trying to like determine values,
Yeah, I kind of thought the same thing. Like I was looking at the estates down there as like it could potentially be one. There's a lot of bluffing and stuff with the auction.
Yeah, auction games are one that can really like appeal to like games where you're like bidding.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're like, I think this thing is worth this much. Like just like in poker, you're saying, I think these cards are worth this amount of money with the combination of what's on the table. So I think that's you're going to be looking at a lot of that. One of my other ones that I'll go ahead and suggest is one I brought with me. This is Fantasy Realms by WizKids. And the reason why I said this is a very odd one because it's got really high scores. It's really determining, like building a hand, and you're saying, this is what I'm going to score when I play these with combinations. So it's kind of like a hand combinations.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, and because that's what you're doing in poker. You're saying, I've got a pair of 2s, you got a pair of queens with, a queen on the table, and I've got nothing else.
Right.
Your hand with the combination is better than my hand, so it's a hand comparing.
Right.
This one just has victory points for the comparing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way I took Fantasy Realms. It's very simple. So for poker players, they can be like, oh, this is draw a card, discard a card. But it's all about like making the combinations, pushing your luck in a way because you're like, oh, I'm really waiting on this card to benefit my combo, but I'm not getting it.
Yep.
So it has a little bit of the push your luck that you're looking for in like casino games.
Yep.
So it's one I've liked. I played it at RealityCon like 4 times straight with played with Kat and BL, and it was just a lot of fun.
Cool. Yeah, it's a weird one.
Yeah,
It's
and
neat, though.
You've only played it once.
I played it once. I would definitely play it again.
Yep. Do you got any others?
I don't.
I think I've hit them all. Hit the crowd with. Oh, excuse me. Why not talk about the one that's purely focused on bluffing, purely reading the table, and purely just taking a guess if they've got a tulip or a rose or a skull.
Oh yeah, skull.
Well, skull is the best, and it is like you talk about social deduction being one where you're seeing like reading the table. Skull is literally just bluffing and reading the table. Do I think that they played a skull this turn? I don't know. I'm very hesitant to flip over their coaster. Now I'll go over and flip Scott's. Well, he flipped a skull, or he has a skull out.
I love this game.
It's so good, and it's so simple.
Yeah, I could go to a pub and just play this all night.
All night. I could too. There's a reason why I've played it as much as I have. I think in 3 game sessions of playing Skull, it's already at like on a dime on BGG. I've already played it like 10 times in like 3 or 4 game sessions because you just play it nonstop. It's, I think that's my favorite part in like bluffing in like casino games is the bluffing or like reading. You're like, or you yourself for the bluff. You know, I lead with a skull, and then first thing I do instead of adding another coaster is call a 3.
Yep,
that's saying that I guarantee that I can flip 3, and everyone's like, well, duh, I'm gonna flip his first. No, sir.
Yeah, because you have a skull.
and then a meta develops.
Yep.
You're like, oh, now I know that Dylan's gonna immediately put out a skull, and then you anti-meta their think on the meta, and you're like, no, sir.
Yep.
Come after me.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I'm glad that you got to play it after we recorded.
Yeah.
And we played it quite a bit there at the end.
Yep.
And it's one that you can easily print and play or easily play with just a deck of cards.
Yep.
Shut Up and Sit Down recently just did a playthrough of this. They're doing a series of card games that don't suck. And this was one of them.
Yeah. You could say it's a card game.
They played it with a deck of cards.
I guess you can, yeah.
Yeah, because all you do is just like take numbers,
Yep.
and the numbers are your flowers, and then
You
like
could do like a queen or a king for
queen
the
or
skull.
king for the skull. Yeah, literally it.
Yep.
So it is a dandy.
Yep.
One of my favorite games, quite frankly, of all time.
Yeah, it's a lot of
And
fun.
now you understand why I love it as much as I do.
Absolutely.
So, that was our next steps for casino games.
Yes, sir.
It's we hope we've given you some good information for like maybe hosting your own board game casino night.
Maybe we should take you to a casino and only give you, here's like $20, and we like strip you of your wallet.
Please, please just take my wallet. Let me keep my ID, and we'll go from there.
There you go.
There are a few others. Like I said, I'm going to suggest those in the guild. A lot of games that you guys can also suggest in those comments. So, hope you guys enjoyed this. It was a different take on my show that has like no format.
Yep.
It's just the weirdest thing ever.
Yeah, that's cool.
But it works. So yeah, thanks for tuning in.
I have a plug.
Oh, you got a plug?
I have a plug. So if you watch Game of Thrones or you don't and you like to read, but you want to watch something or read something, I guess, rather, that is Game of Thrones-esque. And by that I mean like medieval political drama and war. I've actually started a small group on our Slack channel. You can join Slack. It's $5 a month on Patreon, or you can also, if you don't want to do Slack, we are also open to doing stuff on the guild as well. I've already put a book club post out on the guild, so just respond to that, and that's on BGG again. But we're going to be reading The Lions of Al-Rassan. You can see that if you're watching video. this book is set in medieval Spain, but it's actually an alternate version of medieval Spain. So it's like a fantasy version of that.
Does it have ogres?
No, it's not, and it's not high fantasy. There's a little bit of magic from what I understand, but there's not a lot.
So no Shrek.
This is no Shrek. This is written by Guy Gabriel Kay.
Do you know of any of his other relevant works?
I just finished a book of his called Under Heaven, which took place in the Tang Dynasty of China. But it was, again, set in an alternate world called Kitai instead of China. That book was phenomenal. The prose is amazing. It's very poetic. It's haunting. One of the best novels I've read in a good while. The ending just really kind of stuck with me. And so Lions of Al-Rassan has been claimed as like one of, if not his best works ever.
Okay.
So I'm really pumped for this. And there's a few of us reading over on Slack. Dan and Jonah are both committing to it. So we would love to have more. Like I said, Guild or Slack, I'm happy to chat at all. So I just started. I'm not very far. So when this episode drops, I just finished chapter 1. I got a long way to go. If you're interested, pick up the book and just start chatting with us about it.
I am not a reader, as we all know.
Well, you have some books.
I have books. I just read like half of them and put them down.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like that.
If you want to read books, like I've kept reading half of a book and putting it down. I think committing yourself to a group like this where there's like constant discussion, that's like one thing I always get stuck with books is something cool happened, but now I can't share it with anybody.
Yeah.
No one else is reading this book.
Luckily, my wife is she's already read, she uses Goodreads, the app, and has read 22 books this year already, which is insane.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I know. I'm starting, I just checked out a Nick Offerman book.
Okay, yeah.
From Parks and Rec. Yep. He wrote like his favorite
Without a paddler. No, that's a movie.
It's a movie.
But there's a book that's like kind of named something like that.
Yeah,
I think.
He's got another one, but this one is like he picks like 20 historical figures that are of importance to him and like goes into their history.
Oh, that's cool.
So he starts with like Washington and his last one's Conan O'Brien.
That's awesome.
And I'm gonna read that, and then I checked that out from the library, and then we bought a used copy of The Martian.
I wonder if Jeff Tweedy's on there. He's really good friends with him. He's the front man of Wilco. It's one of my favorite bands.
I have no idea.
So if he's on there, let me know. That'd be cool.
I don't think so because it's mostly historical figures like founding fathers.
Besides Conan O'Brien.
And Conan. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
He was like, yeah, these are people who like led 4-H groups and founded our country and things like that. And I was like, okay. And then I'm going to try and read The Martian. That's my next one.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Have you watched the movie?
No.
Okay.
So
good.
I have no background. My wife hasn't watched the movie, but she read the book and said like it was phenomenal.
I'm sure it was. The movie is phenomenal.
Right.
It's a great movie.
So I think that's where we'll end it. Good plugs though.
Yep. Again, that's the Lions of Al-Rassan.
Yeah.
Let us know and join the discussion if you're interested.
Yep. So thanks for tuning in to episode 2 of The Next Step.
Thanks for having me on, Dylan.
Yeah, no problem, Nick. Have a good one, guys.
See you later.
See you later, Dad.